Thanks for tuning in to more NASCAR coverage on Prime Sports NASCAR. Eric Smith joining me fresh off of his stay at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is actually just down the block. So not a big trip for Eric.
No. Yeah.
Everything's okay though, right? You had a fun time.
I did. Good time. It's weird not to have a pagoda behind me other than my living room wall. But I had a good time, and we'll be back there media day on Thursday and carb day on Friday. So we'll be back in end of this week.
Yeah, Friday, our Prime Sports Speed Show is going to be an Indianapolis 500 preview. So we'll have our picks. We'll take a look at the odds. We'll update practice, all that kind of stuff. That'll be on Friday's show. So we're looking forward to that. And then we'll also come up with all sorts of things over the weekend, and then a Monday wrap. So and that includes, Eric, you taking us on a tour again like you did yesterday. We already have one of our viewers who has asked you to, where did he say he wanted you to go?
The museum and the nosebleeds at turn one.
Okay.
The museum will have to be a tour outside of Friday because they close that. The fans can take a bus to there, but most of the access to the museum is pretty well closed when the tracks are on, or the cars are on track, because they're trying to limit fans and the spectator mounds and all that jazz.
When is the museum open then?
Technically, it's open like today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. If the track's open for cars on the track, then they've closed it. Used to be, before COVID, it was open 364 days out of the year. Christmas was the only day they were closed. So
it won't even be open at all on Friday.
If it is, they're only going to allow you to park outside, and a shuttle will take you there.
Okay.
So that'll be a tough one for me to get, with being as busy as I am, to ride a shuttle to the museum. But
that'll have to be next year when there's no more COVID.
Yes, or I could randomly go on a day of the week and we can do a tour of the museum if they wanted to.
It
doesn't have to be during the month of May. I live here, so
yeah, exactly.
I can always get you the tour of the museum that you wanted.
That'd be awesome.
Turn one, I could try.
Maybe we can even interview someone when you're there.
Yeah, might be able to work. Yeah. But we can always do that any time of the year too. So if there is an opportunity to get over there, I will do my best. But if I'm a little short on time, it might have to be another day. But I can do that.
Nosebleeds it is.
What's that?
Nosebleeds it is.
Nosebleeds it is. Yes, nosebleeds it is.
All right. I was thinking about calling this show. I had a couple different ideas. One was how to depress a NASCAR fan base. And I'm thinking I might stick with that one. I might add to it, like, from one foolish decision, but I'm thinking, well, maybe if I just stick with the more condensed version. And I was thinking of depress, discourage, upset, let down. Any of those will work. I've said this before. It is lucky and fortunate that we don't do these shows sometimes right after the show, because I am just at my optimal freak out. And even though I've had some time to digest this, I'm still extremely upset. And I really can't take this anymore. I think it's important for us. First, I want to kind of go over the race a little bit so we have some... so we can kind of see exactly what it is that I'm upset about. And this here is the big wreck of the race that we're going to show you here. This is the Truex Custer wreck. And look, this is going to happen. It's raining out. And as you can see, Eric, this is just bad.
Yeah. I saw that when we were sitting waiting for Scott Dixon to go to the press conference. I was watching it on my phone, and I'm like, what in God's green earth just happened?
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to follow along a little bit, obviously from afar, not doing a whole lot live with NASCAR as busy as I was yesterday. But from what I was gathering was these drivers couldn't see. There was no reason for them to be racing, because as you could see, all the rooster tails is what you'd call it, the water shooting up from behind the cars. There's no way you could see. And Cole Custer, he had no idea where he was going. And Truex happened to be there, and he ran in the back of him. I mean, they could have killed somebody the way that these cars were. And these drivers weren't happy. And I know we'll get to it in a second of what NASCAR's decision-making. But it's ironic call the race and say then they probably should have delayed the race prior to that point. And it's like, well, why didn't you do it the first time? It goes to show NASCAR fans want racing in the rain, but then you look at what happens when they do race in the rain. There's a slippery slope there. And IndyCar does the same thing too. I mean, you could race in the rain, but when it starts puddling, getting too much water, and you can't see, you just have to stop it because that's where it gets dangerous. I mean, it is. You can see, just look at those cars and look at the spray, all the water. You imagine going down the road and your windshield wipers are barely working and it's pouring down rain and you're on the interstate. You're probably just going to get off. You're telling these guys to race on a track that they've only been to once. It's not like they know the way. It's like they have it memorized where you can run it blindfolded. It just wasn't a good. I mean, it's right there. Stenhouse about hit him right there behind.
Yeah,
didn't even know he was sitting there. So it was. They shouldn't have ran the race in the rain like that. It should have been a little bit drier conditions, and they paid for it. It was bad. It was very bad.
And Kevin Harvick had this to say after the let's see what he had to say here.
We don't have any business being out in the rain, period. So, all I can say is this is the worst decision that we've ever made in our sport that I've been a part of, and I've never felt more unsafe in my whole racing career, period.
So, he doesn't want to be out in the rain, period, which I don't know about that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame him for the comments though. I mean, it's frustration.
He should be frustrated. Everybody should be frustrated because there is no leadership in this sport right now. None.
It's like they force it. It's like everybody's been asking to race in the rain. And I get, like, NASCAR's probably thinking, oh, we got a rain race. Let's show the fans what we can do. Let's give them what they asked for, but they're not using logic, knowing that, hey, there's a difference between a light sprinkle and an occasional rain and a soaked track and a downpour. There's a big difference. And it's like they were afraid that if they didn't race in the rain, the backlash. But you can't cater to the people that aren't right. Like, if they would have complained that NASCAR should have raced in the rain, then they just weren't smart enough to realize it was puddled and that's what you were going to get. So I hope they see now that you cannot race in puddles. You cannot race in a downpour. It just doesn't work. And these guys' lives are at risk. Kevin Harvick, you got to look at it this way. I know we'll get to it here in a second. Chase Elliott won. We just talked about this last week, about Chase Elliott and Harvick battling for a spot in the playoffs off points if they don't win. Elliott got a win by virtue of this. Harvick was wrecked. He falls a little farther behind. Does it eventually cost him a playoff berth if he doesn't win? And you get a couple other guys behind him winning. I mean, that's how much of a factor it's these rain races tend to be, and I don't blame them.
Look, and then we got more road courses ahead. So, and I wanted to throw this in too because this is important for what we're talking about here. This was back in 2007, I believe, when Tony Stewart criticized NASCAR and compared them to wrestling. And this is because of all the way the caution flags were coming out and dictating the races at the time. And he says, I guess NASCAR thinks, hold on. Make sure I have that so you're coming a little bit better. I guess NASCAR thinks, hey, wrestling worked and it was, for the most part, staged. So I guess it's going to work in racing too. I can't understand how long the fans are going to let NASCAR treat them like they're stupid before the fans finally turn on NASCAR. That's what I want to talk about because he's absolutely right. And sooner or later, and we're not talking about, because that's why I wanted to lead off this segment going over what we think is right and wrong about the whole rain situation. It's not about them not racing in the rain. It's about, how do you not prepare for this? I mean, I don't get it. If I'm sitting in a room and I own a company like this and we're talking about these things, how are you not talking about these scenarios? How are you not, okay, what if it rains? Okay, can we get a few cars out there the next time it rains so we can see what it looks like? How do they not use these scenarios? I just are they too cheap? Is that what the case is? Is it money? Because I can't figure out the stupidity of just going, the fans wanted to see them racing in the rain. Okay, go ahead and race in the rain. And they're not taking any precautions.
No.
And then
it literally...
they stopped the race, which I hate. You can't call yourself a legitimate sport when you are ending these races. Like Tony Stewart said, he was pissed off because of the way that they were manipulating races because of caution flags. This is worse because they're manipulating races when they don't have to, and people, they want to talk about being the big sport. Gambling is such a big part of this country now. All the states are almost going to be, you're going to be able to gamble. NASCAR, if you want to be considered a big sport, you have to get it. You have to understand the gambling aspect of it. You can't stop races like this when people have thousands of money on the race. You just can't do that. They're going to infuriate people. And you can't have a sport like that. That's when you can compare it to wrestling. This is what it is. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, it wasn't a good look. The end the red flag it when they did. It seemed, again, I wasn't there covering it, so I can't speak for all the intricacies and developments or anything. But Elliott, by all accounts, doesn't look like he was going to make it to the end.
Elliott was not anywhere near the best.
He wasn't going to win that race.
He should not have won that race. If that could have just been. Cindric actually was better than Elliott the whole race. That could have easily just been anybody. That could have been even Chris Buescher, who was like around Elliott the whole race, 10th. That could have been Buescher. That's what. But it happened to be Chase Elliott, the fan favorite, and the guy who was also the heavy favorite of the race, who didn't deserve to win the race. Go ahead. I don't even have to. We didn't prep any of this. Give me the number one way that this could have been handled, and none of this would have happened.
Honestly, you red flag it before that even becomes out of hand, where you have to come back today and finish the race.
You could do that. I actually like that too. Because I like any
right when it started.
Yes,
because for the accounts I read, they weren't even into the second stage, and it was just a downpour. Nobody could see. Everybody was like, "Let's just be done here." They kept going. So then just red flag it. Red flag it. If you need to dry the track a little bit, do so.
Do you have to get past the second stage for it to be official, or the number of laps?
Second stage or the halfway, whichever comes first.
Do we know what that would have been at this race?
I don't have it in front of me. I do if I had it in front of me.
Okay. Yeah.
I know they weren't there yet from what I saw. I know for a fact they weren't to the point where they could have stopped the race before you got to that point. Then you come back today when it's better conditions, or you dry the track. You got track drying equipment there to get the puddling. You don't have to fully dry it. You just get it damp to where the puddles aren't there, to where it's not treacherous, to where, I mean, the minute you could have seen these onboards. I mean, everybody's got the cameras that, these guys can't see out here. This is dangerous. These guys are racing a motorized vehicle at speeds that are not safe. And we're going to put them out there where they can't see.
By the way,
they should have known.
How could they have, right now, how would they fix that?
Just, you talking about what that just happened?
To see.
To see? They've got windshield wipers, and they just don't work real. They're not like windshield wipers that are like on our passenger cars. There's two of them, and they're...
So if they worked normally, that would be better?
Yeah.
Or do you have to have, like... But central air to make sure that it doesn't cloud up.
That's you go into a lot of different aspects that it's going to slow the car. Like, you're adding a lot of electrical stuff to it. That's why some races have the wind. Like you see some road course races, they have the windshield wiper there, but it's not even connected to work. It's just for an aerodynamical advantage, but they don't want to waste power over here. You would have to make sure the windows don't fog up. Like, they use a lot of Rain-X, but when you have that much water, it's not going to help. It's standing water. I mean, there's just nothing you can do on a downpour with these heavy 3,400-pound cars spraying water up behind at the speeds they're going. Because, like, on the passenger road, we're not tailgating somebody behind them, racing them in the rain.
Sure.
We leave distance so we can
Especially
see.
at 100
These
miles
guys
an hour, 150
yeah.
miles an hour.
These guys aren't leaving distance.
Yeah.
They're racing. They're trying to pass the car. So you've got to be careful with there's an art. Also, there's an art to racing in the rain. In IndyCar Formula One, rain is the great equalizer because there's an art to it. But their number one rule is puddling and lightning. You can't race in a storm, and you can't race with a bunch of puddles. And that's what was going on there. You should have red flagged it. They should have red flagged it. And then at the end, to end it the way they did, but then to come back and say, oh, we should have probably red flagged it earlier. Why don't you just run the race out? You're already that far. But to have Elliott win, and here's what my thought was, and I haven't seen anybody talk about this yet. I was searching for it. But remember that caution they flew in Daytona for rain?
And
Is this a makeup call?
Screwed.
Is this a makeup call? Is this, you see it in sports, they get makeup calls. Was this a makeup call to make up for that? Elliott should have won Daytona. But then you look at the Daytona ending there was flub.
That was also a terrible move.
Yep. And then you got to look at the Chris Buescher scenario at Kansas a few weeks ago. That's 3 questionable end of the race decisions that have 100% impacted the way that race was finished. Chase Elliott was going to win in Daytona. He got it taken away. Chris Buescher had a really great shot at winning at Kansas if they threw that yellow, or Kyle Larson was probably going to be the winner if he doesn't. That finish was altered. And then here you got one at Coda. So is that 3 winners that wouldn't have won? I mean, yes, Elliott made up for it, but we could have 3 different winners other than that. So there's some questionable decision making that I just don't get.
Okay.
I don't get. It's confusing to me, and I wasn't even there.
Let's come up with the simplest solution to a lot of these things. And we have talked about this more than any other solution, any other issue we have with this sport. Everybody knew it was going to rain.
Yep.
Start the race earlier. How many times do we have to keep talking about this? And I don't want to hear anything about the fans, because how many times do we have to compare golf? And they just did it 2 weeks ago. There was going to be rain. I think it was in Texas. And what did they do? Instead of tee time for the final group at 2, it's tee time for the final group at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And it rained. That gave them enough time to only have a limited delay, come out and finish it on time. But if they were NASCAR, they would have started at regular tee times at 2 for the final pair. It would have rained. They would have got dark, and they would have had to come back the next day. That would have been NASCAR.
Yeah, and I get a couple of the factors with, yes, I get the fan angle with people traveling, but I also get the TV angle. You got to have a TV window. But they have race day on like an hour or 2 hours before it. You could technically cancel the race day show. Hey, we're starting early. We've known this was coming. It's not like it just popped up overnight. You could have given it plenty of time to announce.
What are the fans doing, by the way? They're all hanging around by the stadium.
Yep,
and
they're probably
we have
already
these
there.
Nowadays. Everybody has one of these. So you know what you do? You have a system for now on. Anybody buys a ticket, you say, okay, if there's going to be a weather situation where we're going to have to start the race early, we are going to put an alert in here, and we're going to let you know. People aren't stupid. They're going to look at the weather forecast, and they're going to know, hey, I got to keep my eye on the potential of this race starting earlier, so I get to the stadium a little bit earlier. Oh, alert comes on. Race is going to start 2 hours earlier. Okay, I get out there earlier. Nobody's going to mind.
No, and I'm becoming to the point now, ever since last October, that can we almost eliminate the thing of NASCAR racing in the rain? It's remember the Roval, the Xfinity race last October? That was a shit show. That was an awful.
Yes.
They were puddling. Guys were. It was the survival of the fittest. It was like, can we just end this thing? And then you get yesterday. You get the Xfinity race on Saturday. I mean, this whole thing, it
doesn't work with the sport. Yeah.
I don't think it's working. I see there's testing rain tires obviously for ovals, for shorter ovals. But after seeing the road courses, it's like, I don't know if this is a very good idea. It just seems like these cars are not built, which they're not. What race car is built to race in the rain? It just doesn't seem like a very wise decision to race in the rain. Plus, let's be honest too. If it works of racing in the rain, it's only good for those watching on TV. It's not good for those in the stands. Nobody wants to sit out in a downpour to watch a race.
No.
So
another reason why the fans would be happy if they're at the stadium. Oh, an alert! I don't have to sit out in the rain. I can get there earlier and avoid the rain. Good for us.
Yeah. I think it's almost to the point. Can we just eliminate the racing in the rain thing for NASCAR? It doesn't.
Might as well.
It just ends this debate. It ends. If it rains, then it's strategy. Hey, if we get past halfway and it rains and we can't drive the track, then we're done.
Because even if they started earlier and it rained a little bit for the last 10 or 15 laps, that's okay. It's a lot better than going through all the rain and then stopping the race early. It's just the toughest thing. No other sport does this. You can't do this anymore. You can't rig these races this way. And I'm not saying that they're purposely doing it to make sure certain drivers win. I'm not saying that because I don't think they're smart enough. They just have got to they got to understand what they have and what they don't have. And I'm just, I can't believe it. I just can't believe people are running the sport this way. And we've said this for about a year or so now. They need changes at the top. Somebody has got to take control of NASCAR. And to tell you the truth, I personally, I couldn't even recognize who is in control. You never see them. I don't know who they are. Who are they? I know names here and there, but I never see them. I mean, there's like one TV show a week or two TV shows a week, every day, whatever, on NBC and FS1, and that's it. There's just not. They had a channel, the Speed Channel. They got rid of that because they were being too critical of NASCAR. So we don't need to be criticized. Why haven't they developed a NASCAR channel?
It would be wise.
What's so hard about that?
Recently. You need your own streaming, IndyCar, NASCAR, both, where you can dangle that carrot to these networks and say, hey, we can air practice and qualifying on our own channel, on our own YouTube page, on our own website. If you want the rights to it, then it's going to cost you more, or we can do this in-house. So, yeah, they've got a lot of things. I felt like they've been going in the right direction. There's just some of these glaring things that, like, I like Steve Phelps. I like Steve O'Donnell. I like his name, Mr. Miller, Scott Miller, the vice president, the competition. Like, I like how they'll come out and explain. And they'll get ahead of it, but it's just some of the decisions behind it it's questionable. They've done a lot of good.
We talked about that. We talked about how we what we like about them is that every time there's an issue or something that happens that's not good, they will change it for the better. Mm-hmm. But they've got to be proactive. That's where you have to be smarter. You have to have people, you have to start hiring somebody that has the creativity and just foresight of being able to sit in a room and say, guys, this is what we have to do. We have to avoid this from happening the next time. But I agree with you. They do there's other sports that when there are these issues that fans don't like, it takes 2 or 3 years before they make changes. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing that NASCAR has always done really well, is that when they screw up, they fix it pretty fast.
Yeah, and there's some things fans, I feel like they were listening to fans a little too much on some of these things. Like there's a reason they're a fan, because a fan is short for fanatic, and they're not working on a NASCAR team. They're not in the media. They're not any affiliation but a fan. And racing in the rain is one they bitch about, and it's like, look what happens. And I feel like NASCAR almost, I'm not saying this is what they did, but it's like, hey, we got a rain race. Let's play it up to these fans, and we're going to race in the rain with the cup cars. But look what you get. Yeah. It's just like, that's not a good, and that's where you're saying somebody needs to step up. Like, this isn't a good idea. I'll take the heat from the fans. They could come at us. NASCAR should have raced in the rain. They should. Hey, look, it's my fault. It's my call. It just wasn't going to happen. These cars aren't built for it, and we could have moved on because the race. That's the other thing that fears is, hey, it's a new track, it's a new race, it's the best season ever. We're going to throw this new schedule out and build this momentum. That was a crappy race. That's a crappy debut.
And I got to tell you also, that's a racetrack that I just get sort of like what happened on Saturday. I get the feeling if there's no rain, I think someone's going to win that race by 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just, we love the idea of being on the road courses, but I don't know if some of these road courses work for stock cars, you know? And I don't know if this one works for stock cars at all.
Yeah, it's built for Formula One, not a stock car. And a lot of these drivers have all mentioned, be careful what you wish for. That a lot of these things are short-lived, short fixes, but there's no long-term gain. Like, look, most of them, the United States, for majority of the racing, as long as it's been around, like the ovals. It's been an oval where European is more road courses, and United States, Americans like ovals.
Yeah.
Well, it's only been with recent that this trend is like more road racing. Oh, it's exciting.
But why is strategy? That's because earlier in the history of NASCAR, they were more shorter tracks. Then they decided we have to have these cookie cutter tracks, which are the boringest racing out there. So they're saying, hey, anything to fix that, let's go to road courses because we're sick of the cookie cutter tracks.
And who's driving that? That's the fans. Who's asking for a road course? Not these drivers are like, look, I mean, we'll run where they tell us to run, but this is short lived. I don't think I'm like Denny Hamlin and I think Harvick and some of the crew chiefs. Like, this is, you guys are going to hate this in 5 years. You guys are not going to like all these road courses. And look at the racing we're getting on them. Like, some of them, it's just like, that's not a good idea. Let's not listen. And I hate to be critical of fans, but it's like, you can't take every idea a fan has and think it's a good one.
Or
like,
what you do is what we let off with. You go out there when it's raining, you do a test session, and then you have a press conference. Look, this is what we tested out. This is sometimes when it rains, this is the result. It doesn't work for us in stock car racing.
Yeah.
But you don't even do that. You don't even test this out. You just go, let's throw it out there. Hey, the fans wanted it, so let's throw it out there and see what happens. Not our fault. And look what they do with Bristol this year. Okay, you're gonna have a dirt race. Okay, fine. It's freaky. Let's just try it. But then what do? They take one of the other Bristol races away from us.
Yeah.
This is like the favorite racetrack, and you take one of the races away from us.
If anything, go to a track that's already made for dirt. Bristol, not a dirt track. But the other factor is, too, where the fear is we're catering to new fans. A lot of longtime NASCAR fans aren't saying, yeah, give me COTA, give me Road America. They're more, give me Darlington, give me Charlotte, give me the southeast races. Don't give me Bristol dirt. But here's the problem. These races are leaving less to be desired, and a lot of them. These casual fans that are wanting this, they're going to leave. They're going to leave.
There's no doubt about that.
This isn't fun. I thought NASCAR was good, but COTA, that was good for 2 years, but I'm not interested anymore. I like soccer. I like gymnastics. I'm going to go watch over here now. Well, when all those fans leave, what are you left with? You got to give them a product, but you can't listen. There's a problem when you listen too much to fans. I agree, you got to listen to them, but sometimes you're the ones in charge, not the fans. You're the one driving the car. Yes, we need fans to survive, but not every idea a fan has is great. I mean, look, I applaud them. Weeknight races, we want to see it. The fans didn't watch, didn't work, so they scrapped that idea. I think we're seeing racing in the rain. Probably not going to be a good idea. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Road courses, the dirt, I don't know how great this is going. We might end up back, like Hamlin and these guys have said, to the schedule we just liked a couple of years ago, but we lost fans in the process.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got to be careful with who you listen to. And this race is kind of brought the tip of the iceberg, kind of brought it all to the point that we got to talk about it.
And then the other thing again is not only will you lose fans because of the racing, but you cannot manipulate racing or anything in sports that has to do with fans losing money. You just can't do it. Again, that's like wagering on wrestling. That's exactly what it is. You're just going to stop it whenever that they decide to. Oh, sorry, the guy who didn't deserve to win wins. There you go. And you have like, say, a driver that is maybe 20 to 1, 30 to 1, whatever, that you might have like $500 on, that if they let the race just play out, you're probably going to make a lot of money, and they've just taken that away from you.
It almost seems, I guess, in a lack of a better example, of one of those horrible rain or snowy NFL games, and it was just sloppy, and the other team is dominating one team, and they're just kicking field goals. It's 6-0, and Golden Boy Tom Brady leads a touchdown drive, and now they're up 7-6. And the other team that's been dominating all day gets the ball on the other side of the 50, and the NFL's like, whoa, snowing too much. Yeah. We're done. He wins. Yeah. It's like, whoa, I won. No, that other team dominated. Yeah. You can't just stop it, and that's kind of what NASCAR did.
Exactly.
That's where if I was a bettor on that, I didn't.
It would never happen. That's the thing. Yeah. NFL knows better. It would never happen. NASCAR doesn't know any better yet. You can't just
stop it. Yeah, that's where I feel bad for the people that bet that if you didn't bet on Chase Elliott, and then probably a majority didn't.
You were probably going, yeah, right. Chase Elliott's out of this race. He's a heavy favorite. Yeah. I can make some money off this race.
Yep. And then all of a sudden he wins. It's like, well, to me, they'll not do this because betting sites are going to give your money back. But it's like, to me, it's an incomplete race. You didn't get to the finish line. Can you give the people at least their money back? Because Chase Elliott should not have won that race yesterday. Now you got.
I agree. I think that's what I would do. I'd say, look, nobody's gonna win or lose a wager on NASCAR unless it's a complete race.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If some fluky strategy wins, pit strategy or whatever. But if it's not a completed race, it just, I don't feel like it's fair. If it's rain shortened or something like that, it's like, well, you bet on the race to go a full distance. You don't bet on a race to go 75% of the way done and then like, oh, I lost. I bet on that guy to be leading at 75%, not on. It's a slippery slope. It is.
And they're not doing enough again of, and nobody says that it can't get to a point where, like, let's say that you take all the precautions necessary, you start early, it still rains. You get to the next day, it still rains. If you've exhausted all of and you've tried so hard to get the race finished, okay, I understand. But they don't do that. They just, we all know it's going to rain in 5 hours when the race starts, and then it's going to rain all night, and we do nothing about moving the race up. All we do is we start live for our coverage. We sit there, and we tell our broadcast team to act stupid and say things like, well, looks like we might be underway here in about a half hour. And then half hour comes. Remember that race a few weeks ago that they started for like 2 laps?
Yep.
What was that crappy race?
Martinsville.
Okay.
Martinsville.
And then come on, man. You just cannot do that. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe what it is I don't think they have enough people in that, like you named a few people who run NASCAR. I don't think they have enough of them. I think there's just too little of a group, and they don't, 4 or 5 people, that's just not enough. You have to have 20 people.
No. They need as weird as this sounds, a weather department. Somebody that focuses just on rain and contingency plans.
Sure.
Like, that is your only department. You're just focused. Because it's the old joke, if you're going through a drought, have NASCAR come to town. Seems to always rain wherever they go. So even the desert, it's going to rain. So you got to have somebody in charge of this to know, like, hey, with a binder, it's raining this much. I mean, it's not like it just started raining that day. It rained for the whole day before. You've got to have the foresight to know that track is saturated. It's not like it was completely bone dry and then it started raining, because that's a completely different story. That track was soaked. You don't race on a soaked track. That's common racing knowledge, and granted, NASCAR hasn't done. They haven't dabbled into that yet, and they saw how tricky it is. Where if it was just hey, NASCAR fans, I know you want this, but remember Coda on May 23rd?
Sure.
Do you remember that race? Do you really want to go that route? You can at least, you have a reminder now. But now that's what it is. And now you've got Hendrick, all 4 drivers have won. And are they going to beat Petty's record this weekend in the 600?
At least we got the 600 to look forward to, so that's good. You know, we got an old, even though it's not an exciting track, but it's okay. I mean, there's been good racing there. It's a long race, so anything can happen. So,
and it's a crown jewel. It's Hendrick's.
It's a double points race for us in our fantasy league.
Yeah, and you got to look. I mean, yes, Kyle Larson was second. I mean, Hendrick got 1-2. Even when it was all said and done, they got 1, 2, 3, 4 the week earlier. They're tied now with Petty for 268 NASCAR wins, and this is their home track. Their shop is like in the shadows of Charlotte Motor Speedway. So are they going to break, their record at their home track? And I think that's the biggest thing going into this weekend now.
And the fans are going to be there.
100%.
That's awesome.
Good for them too. 100%. Fans are starting. You got them 100%. Sonoma's not next week. I think it's 15,000 maybe. Sonoma's
kind of tough anyway. Even on screen, you can't really. Nobody knows.
There's not a lot of seating there. Yeah, and they're in California.
They're in California too.
The fact they've got fans is, hey, we'll call that as a win. Then it's the All-Star race, 100%. Then it's Nashville, 100%. Then it's Pocono.
That's right. We're going to 100%. Nashville. We've never been there before.
Nope. So we're gonna start seeing full crowds again.
That's good.
And the other thing I liked is all the media allowed in the garage and the pits, and they don't have to wear masks. It just seems from afar, looking at Coda, that things are getting back normal again. Things are starting to get normal. If we could get this normal decisions back, then we're up and running. But it's, full capacity now. And I don't know what Road America, I don't think they fully announced what capacity. They're going to have fans. To what extent, I don't know, for the 4th of July weekend. And then you got Atlanta the week after that, who's already said 100%. So every race moving forward, minus Sonoma, and I have a feeling Road America being in Wisconsin is going to be 100% since everywhere else is.
Another track they've never been to before. Another road course.
So we've got a lot that could shake these playoff standings up here coming up. You got inaugural race in Nashville, an inaugural race in Road America. You got 2 at Pocono, which always seems to be crazy. Sonoma, another road course. This season.
Harvick's the one, like you said, though, that now has to be a little bit in trouble, which is probably why he was the pissed off one.
Yeah, he's got 4 top 6s last 7, but he's only led like 39 laps or something crazy like that all year. Like he's not.
And he's got to get a win. As long as Denny Hamlin doesn't win, he's in trouble, Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
Especially if they get a couple more wins on these road courses from drivers with no wins.
Yeah, you got to take. Yeah, it could be a flukish situation again. Then you've got Austin Dillon. He's in his top 15, 6 of his last 7 starts. The one he wasn't, he was 16th. He's looking better. Tyler Reddick has got 6 top 8s or 6 top 10s his last 8. He's like a top 8 machine now. I'm glad I picked him up. Who's to say they can't steal a win? Austin Dillon stole one in Texas last year. What if one or both of them wins? And then you got Denny Hamlin say he still doesn't win.
Yeah.
Well, now you're down to 15 and 16. You're down to only 2 wild card spots open. And I haven't even mentioned, what if Stenhouse wins in Daytona, the regular season finale? What if
that would be awesome
Benedetto,
if there was one spot, like, or 1 or 2 spots left that could determine whether Kevin Harvick does or doesn't get in, or someone else. That would be pretty cool. And then someone with an opportunity, who will always get an opportunity at the end of that race to win, who's never thought about winning. So that would be cool.
I'm going to write about that coming up. Is nothing against Kevin Harvick. I think as NASCAR fans and media, we always root for a good story. Is we kind of need Kevin Harvick to go winless.
Yeah,
let's see if he goes winless to Daytona, and let's get a few more wins, because it's either he's going to go winless or Hamlin and him are going to get a win, and it's going to look somebody's got to get hot at that point, because we're getting to the point, like I said a couple of weeks ago, we're going to start running out of winners. There's only so many people that realistically have a shot to win. Somebody then is going to get hot. Somebody's going to rattle off a bunch. Truex has got 3. He kind of goes up and down. Hamlin gets a bunch of ups, but he doesn't actually win. who's going to get hot? Kyle Larson's got 3 straight runner-ups. Is it him? Does he start turning these seconds into first? Does Elliott, now that he's got a win, we've seen this out of him, he'll luck his way to a win, and then he takes off. Then he'll win like 4 of the next 6. Like, is somebody going to get hot? William Byron, is it him? He's been running great. He's second in points, by the way, if you look
Where
at
did
overall.
he finish?
He was 11th,
Oh.
first time outside the top 10.
See?
But, hey, top 11 in a
I
rain,
know.
it's like, and he's not a road course driver, so
and also they had the whole tire issue in the beginning of the race from was it Kozlowski and Blaney? That was also just, I don't know if that was a weird NASCAR rule, or these guys should have known better, or whatever the case. And then everybody was scrambling to pit early to change tire. It was just weird. Everything that was going on in the race yesterday with the whole. You just didn't know what was going on, which the only thing that felt like it was going to be saving it was the fact that it wasn't going to be Chase Elliott or Martin Truex winning. That was the only thing that you were looking forward to. Was this is just so nuts that you were going to just, okay, well, at least we've got something weird that's going to happen, and then they took the weirdness away from us. So
just like in Daytona, Elliott should have won. He didn't. So it's what are we going to get at Sonoma, and what are we going to get in Road America? The 2 things to watch out for the next month. Is Truex and Elliott going to be your guys, or is this door wide open? Because there's some fluky guys. I mean, Allmendinger was up there. Ross Chastain was up there. Tyler Reddick, that's the first RCR pole on a road course since 1996. I mean, there's some fluky things.
Yeah.
So if I'm Harvick, I'm not content. If I'm Hamlin, 301 points to the good. I think you could probably give him the regular season trophy now. You've got this thing, man. Nobody's catching you. Yeah. But it's the biggest thing to watch moving forward is definitely going to be the only 2 guys left that we all thought were going to win is Hamlin and Harvick. Do they win? And if so, at what point does somebody start getting hot? I still don't think we're going to see 16 different winners, because you just got to, is Chris Buescher going to win? Not unless it's a pit call strategy. Can he get on points? Yeah, he's 42.
Well, you got the road courses, so anything, and the Daytona race. So
so you got those to watch out. Other than that, that's why I feel like the 600 this weekend. Both races at Pocono. We've got the normal summer race. Atlanta second time. Like, you're probably going to see somebody that's already won a race this season win those. There's a reason. Yep. So who of those guys gets hot? Somebody's going to get hot. It's going to happen.
That's the saving grace. As much as we're just really upset at a lot of things that's going on in NASCAR this season, there's more parity in the Cup Series than ever before. That's what's saving everything. Is we can kind of all right, let's put all this behind us now. We just vented. Okay, that's in the rearview mirror. Now let's start looking ahead again at, hey, look at this. This is who the hell? Nobody knows who's going to win.
9 guys have 1 win. 9. It's like, that's why I keep throwing $100 every week on my futures, because nobody is separating themselves. They're all such good. I mean, what wasn't William Byron like 12-1 last week? The guy's second, and he's second in points.
And Blaney wasn't he like 12-1 too? I think
12-1. Yeah, that's why I'm just going to keep throwing money their way until eventually somebody's going to get hot and distancing themselves. But when they do, we're going to get better odds for everybody else. Somebody's going to get hot. It's naturally going to happen. Yeah. So for us, is it Truex? Because if so, we're going to get Larson and Byron and Hamlin and Harvick and Kyle. And these guys are going to continually probably be 8, 9, 10, 11-1 because somebody else is going to get hot. So, yeah, that's the big thing I would say watching out for as we get through the 600 to the summer months is who gets hot, and does Hamlin and Harvick get the victory lane? If not, then the playoffs are – if they do, then I think the playoffs are signed, sealed, and delivered if no one really knew wins. Because Tyler Reddick being 38 points ahead in 16th, I don't know if anybody's catching those guys anymore. They just keep getting wider and wider and wider. I mean, Stenhouse was there, but his last 5 races of 20th or worse. DiBenedetto's 19th, 24th, 23rd. Kurt Busch hasn't had a top 10 in 11 races. Ross Chastain's 20th, and this is yesterday's first top 10 since Daytona. Yeah. What about them do you think is going to win a race? So that's why I say this 16 right now, I feel, which has been an interesting question. Is do you feel like the 16 now is going to be the 16
Sure.
come August? And right now, I'd say yes. I don't think anybody who's getting in unless they win.
All right, so you've got the 500 recap of this past week, the practice and the qualifying. That's all up at racereviewonline.net. And then, of course, you'll start previewing the Coke 600 race and more Indy 500 preview stuff on the website. And then you're going to be back at the track on Friday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yep. I have the track trends for both Charlotte and Indy Tuesday. Favorites on Wednesday, sleepers on Thursday, just like normal. The 5 burning questions on Friday. I do have a piece coming out this week with for IndyCar side, and I'm going to talk to more drivers Thursday at Media Day, just kind of button it up with some quotes. Because I've already got 4 or 5 quotes already in it. Is what is real racing? What in their eyes is real racing? I mean, because like the NASCAR side, it's 750 or the 550 package. Most people want the higher horsepower, lower downforce. Let the men be men, slide the car around, separate yourselves. But sometimes when you get to that point, you got to have 9 cars on the lead lap. You might have somebody distance themselves. And people say, that's not racing. I want close racing. Well, you got the 550 package where nobody can pass. It's artificial racing. It's the car's designed to not lead. So, but TV contracts, Indy cars, as an example, is up at the end of the year. They're dangling that carrot. So you have to have a good product. The fans want one thing. The racers probably want another. So as we go to a new era in racing, what is racing? What is the future outlook? What do they want it to be? As a race car driver, I'd want to have it more in my hands. I want higher horsepower, lower downforce, and be able to pass the car in front. And if I have the better car, I want to be able to be rewarded for having the better car. But sometimes these guys in the middle of the pack want to be able to come up and pass too. So I've got that coming out. I've got some good quotes from drivers of what is racing? What is it now? It's not like it used to be. We've all can agree to that it's shifted throughout the years. So what is racing? So I'm going to have that coming out this week too for the IndyCar side. And once we get back to a NASCAR race, I'll want to get their take on what they feel.
When are you going out for a NASCAR race again?
I'll have to look at the schedule. It probably won't be till July because I know my June's a lot of IndyCar again. So hopefully soon be at a NASCAR race again in person.
And we'll talk to you again on Friday from the track for our Indy 500 preview.
Yep.
That should be a lot of fun.
Live. Yep. And I think I was going to talk to you about maybe we give the fans again. I know we're going to do an Indy 500 show, but if it's not raining, there's a chance of rain here. They make scrap card day. If that's Friday. That's the Friday. I'll still go out there. We could do a show from out there. But if it's not raining, maybe I'll give more of we'll do a separate show. So we just do like the Gasoline Alley tour. I'll show you the pit, show some drivers out and about. Figure that morning's a good time to do it.
Okay.
But I'll know more in the weather forecast closer to time. But yeah, give another a tour.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I feel like it needs its own video on its own.
Yeah.
So but we'll see that come Friday. I can't predict the weather.
Well,
it's
that's why you got to subscribe to the channel. This way, every time we have a new show or report that we didn't even think about until the day of, then boop, pops up on your YouTube channel.
Yep.
Alert.
You got it.
You got a show.
Yep. So yeah.
Excellent. Can't wait. Should be a great weekend. I'm hoping, because after what happened this weekend, hopefully next weekend, Memorial Day weekend, the Coke 600, the Indy 500, I certainly hope we're going to have something positive to talk about.
Yeah, and I think this is the start of, as I mentioned, capacities opening up, fans. This just feels, I don't know if it's just because I've been at the track, normal. It feels back to normal again. I just feel like Memorial Day weekend, just in my brain, is always normal. I know some people say the 4th of July, but I just feel once you see the fans in the stands and masses, and you see like Memorial Day weekend, we didn't have that. We had the 600, but it was behind closed doors. We didn't have the Indy 500. Now you've got the 500 and the 600. You got fans there. You're gonna have cookouts. You're gonna have parties. This might be the unofficial end of COVID. I know it's not over. I know people are still suffering.
There's going to be
I do feel
baseball
for you,
too. There's
baseball's starting to open. Yeah. I saw June. A lot of those fans are coming back. So I was watching my Cubs play the Cardinals the other night, and Busch Stadium on TV looks pretty full. It didn't even come to my mind of no fans there last year. We're starting our minds are starting to come back around
Thank
to
goodness.
it. So it's hopefully we have something good to talk about on Monday because of that.
And also, CJ is going to join me on Wednesday as usual. CJ and I will preview the Coke 600. We'll give Eric's picks and all that other stuff for the Coke 600 coming up on Wednesday. So, Eric, appreciate it. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Thank you. Talk to you then.